Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace. Peace and beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. So good morning, or good afternoon, or it's still a morning, yes. Good morning and namaste, everyone. Welcome to our Sunday talk. We'll have a spirited time as usual, no doubt. So first I'll start with some announcements. Yesterday was Seva Saturday for March. Many thanks to the 2 people who came and served, yet it must be said we need better turnouts than that to get all the center's work done as we go into spring and into summer and get this place ready, hopefully for reopening. I'll talk about that in a moment. For the time being, our chapel is open for your use as you wish from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. But please check with me before you come in case I'm away from the center, as I was, for example, yesterday evening from about 6:15, 6:20. So the chapel was open because there was somebody still there. But if there hadn't been anyone in the chapel when I left and I could instruct them to close it up in my absence when they were finished, then the chapel would have been closed. So you can phone me, just phone the center's number, it forwards to my cell phone. And so, or you can check by email if phoning is inconvenient for you. I said opening up again, getting ready to open up again. We are continuously evaluating, looking at how soon we can open up for face-to-face gatherings again. The aspiration, the hope, the prayer is that we'll be able to do that in May. But it strictly depends on these viruses and how they're surging. We cannot risk one another's health simply so that we can get together face to face. So are there any other announcements that I might have made that weren't made? Anything anyone wants to alert the congregation to? Okay. So again, welcome to our Sunday morning talk. This is a month for the study of Karma Yoga, a spiritual path leading to the abandonment of selfishness. As a Karma Yogi, you practice offering all your actions and their results. You practice offering all your actions and their results, as well as your perceptions, thoughts, and feelings to the Divine Presence. In many Ramakrishna Mission centers, this prayer is chanted by the congregation At the end of a homa fire ceremony, a homa fire ceremony normally comes at the end of a puja. And here's the prayer that they chant in the spirit of offering. No matter what I may have done, said, or thought, in waking, dreaming, or dreamless sleep, with my mind, my tongue, my hands, or my other members, may all that be an offering to Brahman. May all that be an offering to Brahman, the divine presence. Even before realizing this divine presence, you hold firmly to the belief that the presence is within each person or other living being that you interact with or serve. If you can work and abide in this spirit, you are increasingly able to release attachment to your activities and their results. If you can work and abide in this spirit of offering everything to the divine presence, this will yield the freedom and contentment promised by karma yoga. And of course, we know at the end of chapter 2, Sri Krishna says this amazing thing. Even a little practice of this yoga, karma yoga, even a little practice of this yoga will save you from the terrible wheel of rebirth and death. Now, if you wish to be reborn as a human being, then there is no terrible wheel of rebirth and death. But most of us who are here this morning have the aspiration of this being their final lifetime. So you would regard this promise of Krishna's very highly, that if you do the things that he prescribes, even a little, it will save you from being compelled to be reborn. Even a little practice of this karma yoga will save you from the terrible wheel of rebirth and death. So, are there any questions about karma yoga as defined in that paragraph? Everybody's satisfied that they understand this path towards selflessness, and that it means living, as Sri Krishna says, sacramentally, offering everything to the divine, seeing the outward evidence of an inner divinity or grace.
Can you hear me okay, Shankara?
Yes, I can, Tom.
So one thing you said really sparked thoughts of, thinking about whether you want to be reborn or not. Now, I have no idea if reincarnation is true. It may or may not be, but it raises the question of, is life worth living? There's a movement among people who say it's better never to have been born. They're called anti-natalist.
I never heard that term.
That's
great.
A famous philosopher in Australia. A lot's been written about it. And when life is really hard, that thought has crossed my mind. But the idea that we want to, if reincarnation is true, if such a thing exists, that you don't want to be reincarnated, that you don't want to be reborn, is sort of like antinatalism. But then, anyway, I have no point to make, and I have no opinion. I'm throwing out ideas that burst into my mind when you said that.
Very good, Tom. Thank you so much, as always. Antinatalism. What a clumsy term. Antinatalism.
Is that, I missed, I think I was half asleep. Did you say that antinatalism is not wanting to be reborn?
No, it's saying that you are better off never having been born in the first place.
Oh, okay.
And that
Okay.
it's immoral to have children because they're born into a situation where they will suffer, that life is suffering, and you're better off never being born, and you're better off not having children. It'd be better off if the whole human race went extinct.
Oh my goodness.
Kind of like
How presumptuous is all this?
like Steve Cullen's Reincarnation Blues has at the end has the solution to all our problems, which is we just all need to quit having sex, and in 100 years or so we'll just go off floating with nothing on but our souls.
I never heard that song.
Great, it's fabulous.
But the question is,
One of our neighbors and friends.
how does antinatalism relate to the idea that you don't want to be reborn, assuming reincarnation?
Well, I don't want to address that, Tom. I don't know anything about antinatalism. But the idea that it's better never to have been born, that very thought seems so presumptuous to me.
Well, you have to be born in order to find that out.
But then if reincarnation is true, we're saying that it's better not to be reborn, which is kind of
if you choose, if that's your choice. And this morning we'll talk about what it is that chooses. But some people definitely wish to be reborn, and they do all kinds of elaborate ceremonies and rites and rituals. They pay priests to do things to guarantee that they will have another birth and a better birth, a higher birth, a more prosperous birth in its wider sense of prosperity, not just material wealth, but enjoyment of Mother's universe. Now, this is a Mirabai was very much of that opinion. Mirabai said, "Don't give me liberation. Let me be born again and again so that I can dance and play and have a relationship with my beloved Krishna."
That's why I think it says to seek the kingdom of God first.
Exactly. That's exactly right, Clint. Then you'll know what's what. All wisdom and all righteousness will be given to you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. What is it that's seeking? What is it that may or may not be reborn?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
just like Mirabai, Mahatma Gandhi, he also said, if I have to be born again, I would rather wish to be born as an untouchable, because he was so moved by the plight of the untouchables in India in his time. So out of sympathy, he said, if I am born at all, then I would rather be born as that neglected, outcast, untouchable.
Well,
So
he may well have been reborn as one of those, because there certainly have been some great activists among the untouchables to break out of their imprisonment. So the spirit of Mahatma Gandhi may well have been reborn as an untouchable.
So not for prosperity, but to feel the pain of those who are outcasts.
Yes, well, as Mahatma Gandhi had done, which
Yes.
is assimilate the teachings of the Gita,
Yeah.
there is no way not to feel, if you take Krishna seriously,
Yeah.
there's no way not to feel the pain of those who
Yes.
are outcast or suffering
Yes.
or otherwise
Victims of injustice.
if you want to put it this way, yes. Injustice is a very perilous word because it argues that it is not their karma for them to be born in this circumstance. And Vivekananda says that's not possible. But that doesn't mean that we are callous toward them, or just the opposite. I went to a music concert last night, the proceeds of which were donated to a charity. The musicians were not paid. The place that hosts this concert is not reimbursed or paid. All the money that is raised by the event goes to a different charity each month. And the one last night was very moving. It was called Mothers Behind Bars, Motherhood Behind Bars. Those
It's actually Motherhood Beyond Bars.
Motherhood Beyond Bars. These women who are incarcerated and are pregnant, and I won't go into all the details if you want to look it up, Motherhood Beyond Bars. And very moving. Someone from the organization came and spoke and thanked the audience for providing this sizable donation. So we must feel for those who are, as was said, outcast or somehow not participating in the society in a way that is auspicious. So anything else about the definition of karma yoga as it was read out?
Hi,
Brother,
brother. Sundar
oh,
here. Uh, no,
Somebody go ahead. I don't know who it is.
yeah. This is in context to what Umaji was mentioning. So I feel like there is a connection between like the rebirth and the caste and other things. It gets a wrong impression because the rebirth is a concept of the Hinduism itself, but the caste and other things are born out of the society. So if the two things get messed up, it's giving a wrong, it's going in the wrong direction. That's what I feel. I think whenever we are speaking about reincarnation, it needs to be in that context alone.
Very well said. Thank you so much. Anything? There were two people trying to talk at once. Who was the other person?
yes, brother Gaurav here.
Yes, Gaurav.
I think again, kind of referring back to whatever Tom was saying. I think the sooner we realize that we are not the doer, it's basically the divine. I think it's going to be much easier to let go of the pain and suffering and whatnot, which leads to the frustration of, hey, I don't even have to live or something. Sooner we realize that you're not going to do nothing about it, means your rebirth and stuff, it's going to be determined by it. It's done by the divine mother is probably at work with everything.
Well, you have foreshadowed the next point that I was going to make, Gaurav. Thank you very much. Your mind is tracking with where we're going next. Anything else from anyone? All right. Last week,
Brother, this is just very brief, but just to be clear, because we've been talking about the doer, I think last week. when we say, I am not the doer, what we mean is the Atman is not the doer. Is that true?
That's correct.
Okay, just wanted.
The Atman is not the doer. God alone is the doer. And so in that sense, the Atman is the doer, but it is not personal. It is not an I. It is not the personal I that is the doer.
Well, I thought you had said the body, the mind, the gunas are the doers.
That's exactly right, which are a creation of the divine being for its own purposes and intentions. Now, it's interesting to talk about the purposes and intentions of the divine, because the purposes and the intentions of the divine are not mind-born. They are like the fragrance of a flower. They simply occur because that being exists. So the attributes, the divine attributes, which include volition or intention, it's all there. But we, as human beings, this is what we're going to talk about this morning, this field of action. What is it? What is it? We established last week that God alone is the doer. But here is all this screen full of individual and independent human beings. Independent by that I mean none of us is very much dependent on one another. We gather cooperatively out of a desire to share and study the art of spirituality together. So there's something going on. What is it? Well, first of all, last week the assertion was made, and the case was made, that God alone is the doer. Not a leaf moves but by the will of God, and so on. Now, how does this actually happen? So the title of today's talk is, What is the Field of Action? And I'm going to read a quote about action and why we study the art of spirituality together. You'll see the connection. It's a quote from Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, the writer of Wind, Sand, and Stars and The Little Prince and other things. This is what he said. If you want to build a ship, don't drum up people together to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. Teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. And that's what we're doing here, is encouraging our longing, our yearning for the endless immensity of being itself. So here's a quote from Sri Krishna. According to Sri Krishna, all your actions have 5 partakers. So say the scriptures. Now, here are the components of the action that is done by the doer, or the gunas, the instruments of the doer. But here's what seemed to be yours. First, the body itself. Then ego, the doer. The organs of sense, and the many actions, the many motions of life within the body. Lastly, the devas in spirit presiding. The devas are the ones that actually perform the work of the gunas. This was pointed out last week. So I'll name those 5 again. First, the body. Then this ego sense that I am the doer. When that disappears, this whole game ends. When we no longer really feel in any sense that we are the doer, this game ends. So first the body, then the ego sense, the feeling that I am the doer, the 5 organs of sense, the many motions of life in the body, and lastly, the devas in spirit presiding. Whatever the action, this continues Krishna's quote, whatever the action, excellent, evil, whether of speech, of mind, or of body, these are the causers. This is from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18. So it's these ideas and the knower of your field of action, the witness self, or saguna atman. That's what we'll explore and discuss this morning. So before I go on, is there any comment or question on or concern raised by Krishna's quote about the 5 partakers of action, these being the causers of the action that occurs within each one of these individual beings that we see before us on the screen?
Yes, Brother Shankara,
Yes, Uma.
chapter 13, Kshetra, Kshetrajna, Vibhaga Yoga. In that chapter 13, what I think it is verse number 6 and 7, they refer to, in addition to what you mentioned, the great elements of nature, like fire, like water, and all Pancha Mahabhut. So these are in addition to our body, our ego, senses, etc.
Uh-huh. Well,
So
yes, Uma, you're right. But they are that which we are acting on and with. And of course, they make up the body itself, the 5 elements.
I see.
All that is true. But I quoted directly from Krishna in chapter 18
Yeah.
about
Chapter
what.
13.
No, yeah, I know you were referring back to chapter 13,
Yeah.
but the quote I read was from chapter 18,
Yes.
and it specifically says that if you want to know what the partakers in the action are,
Mhm.
and what the causers of the action, the seeming action, are, these are the 5. Of course, within the Sankhya philosophy, those things that you mentioned are also there, but Krishna didn't mention them here. He mentioned them earlier
Yeah.
as a basis on which he was building. So thank you, Uma, as always, for that addition. Anything else from anyone about this definition of the 5 partakers of the action that goes on with each one of us? All right. Let's talk about how this actually goes forward. This witness being, Saguna Atman. Another name for it is the Divine Mother. And in the list of her attributes, it is said that Mother abides in all beings as volition, intention. Now, as I said, these attributes of the divine presence are not something that the presence has like a possession. It's something they simply express as a flower expresses its fragrance. A flower doesn't set out to be fragrant. Its nature is to be fragrant. So the nature of the divine being is to express volition or intention. And along with that, all these other divine attributes of mercy, goodness, all these ways that we think of the divine, the positive aspects, the auspicious aspects. So these are what is the fact that the witness self is witnessing is not an act of volition in itself. It is simply it is the nature of the Atman to be the witness. And it is when we begin to realize that, when we begin to be enough present to the witness, we see that it isn't that the witness self, this Atman, this Saguna Atman, is doing anything, because it doesn't do anything. But its nature is to witness what is going on in front of it, as if there were a movie playing, is one way to think about it. So before we go on to anything else, are there any comments or questions about that definition of the witness self or Saguna Atman? All right. We, as beings that are acting, as was said last week, the title of the talk was "Whose Karma Is It?" And it was argued, that is to say, presented, that it is the karma is of the body. And there's nothing personal about it. You are not the body and not the doer, so it cannot be possibly your karma. And the witness self, the indwelling and animating principle of your being, has nothing, does nothing, knows nothing, wants nothing. It is eternal, infinite, and changeless. So though it expresses these attributes, as I said, the analogy is to a clock doesn't tick off the time intentionally. It is the nature of the clock, the way it is made, to tick off the time. A flower does not think, I will be fragrant. Its nature is to be fragrant. In the spring, it is the nature of trees to grow leaves. So there's nothing to wonder at in any of this, except that we can say, with Einstein, there are two ways to live. We can live as if nothing is a miracle, or we can live as if everything is a miracle. And as was remarked before everyone came on screen, I fixed some tea this morning, and with a yogi tea bag, and the yogi tea bags have little sayings attached to them. And this one was, without gratitude, there is no prosperity. When we have gratitude, when we see everything as a miracle, including all of this that we've been talking about, the karma that comes to the body, which is good, bad, and ugly, lovely and sometimes unbearable. And all we have to do is look around. We don't have to just think about ourselves. We can look around at other people who are either exultant because they had some wonderful success, or they're in terrible pain and grieving because a bomb just destroyed their home and killed most of their loved ones and injured themselves. So this karma, it comes and it goes, but it is not yours, and it is not something of that which is indwelling. It is simply this field of action caused by the fact that there is a body. The body has this sense of doership, this ego. The fact that it has 5 organs of action, 5 organs of sense, 5 sense organs. The fact that it has a vital force, and there's emotions of that vital force within the body. And the fact that there are innumerable devas, that is the small g gods, associated with this body, making all this happen. So this is why sometimes you see the words great mystery written capital G, capital M, or miracle, as Einstein said. And so we have, if we take Krishna seriously, this, do I wish to continue to participate in this drama? Drama being defined as something that is both comedic and tragic. Do I wish to continue to participate, or do I wish to be released from what Krishna characterizes as the terrible wheel of rebirth and death? So anything from anyone about any of that, anything, what do all these thoughts give rise to in you?
Well, see, that's why I don't think it's presumptuous to not wish for birth, as we talked about earlier, because it's the terrible wheel of birth and death. And even in George Harrison's song, Give Me Love, he says, keep me free from birth. So that's just my thoughts. Some people may not want to be born, and there's good reason for it, because this life is tough.
Well, Brahmadas, I don't argue with that. I was just saying that this antinatalism thing, where that was the presumptuous part, that it is better not to have been born, that it is better that the human race not exist, that it is better not to have children and all this. This is just the kind of horrible darkness and guilt-producing talk that people come up with. If you encounter an antinatalist and they say you shouldn't have had children, you shouldn't have brought them into this world, that's what I was characterizing as presumptuous. Not that it's presumptuous to wish to escape the terrible wheel of rebirth and death. But thank you, Brahmadas.
May I ask one question, please?
Yes, dear.
I exactly understand what you're saying, that we are actually, Krishna is saying, we are not the doers. The work gets done by us on account of Prakriti, nature. It is our Prakriti which makes us do things in this sense that it is the karta. We are not the karta. So I understand that perfectly. Then comes the question of karma theory. It says, whatever you do, whatever you sow, so you reap. So how do we reconcile what we are discussing right now with that karma theory that you get born next time according to your account of good work or bad deeds or good deeds? How do we explain that?
What is it that gets reborn, dear? The body gets reborn. It is only the body. Krishna explains it in chapter 2. This body is just a garment. When we're finished with this garment, we shed it. And now we go on. What has happened? Nothing has happened other than we are no longer available to the senses of other people. And we no longer have the sense connection to this time, space, and causation reality at this level. We're in the subtle realm. So then if it is auspicious or appropriate or karmically compelled by the fact that there continued to be desires in the body that was shed, we will take another body. Who is the we? The we is the Atman. The Atman takes another body so that it can witness. Sarvapriyananda Swami was asked, why does it do that? And his answer was simply, straightforwardly, because it can. There is no way for us to understand the why of the Atman. Vivekananda is very, very explicit about this. It's the why of existence is an absolutely unanswerable question, and so need not even be asked.
Brother, can I say something?
Of course.
We, from the body perspective, when we are within it and we are trying to intellectualize something we'll never understand, I think. The divine is far too vast for us to reason.
Yes.
just trust in it. That's about it. That's believe that is in work. That is about it. And you gradually start getting that third person view as Krishna said in the Gita too, means you become the observer.
Yes, all that is true, Gaurav, absolutely. But on the other hand, there's what Tom Carr said at the very beginning of our discussion this morning. All of what you said depends on belief in what Sri Krishna says, belief in the idea of reincarnation. And Tom says, I'm not sure I believe in all that. And that is a perfectly legitimate and even auspicious point of view. Auspicious from the point of view of it's authentic. If you false belief in something that you don't know, this is something that Vivekananda absolutely triple underlines.
Absolutely.
And Sri Krishna says it in the Gita as well. If you falsely assert something that you do not know, you can only be called a hypocrite. And I'm not saying that's true of you. I'm just simply
yeah, I understand. From one of my experiences that I've noticed is like things don't happen as a coincidence or a happenstance. There's a reason for everything, and everything that happens, if you start to actually take that objective view of your own life, you start realizing there is a much bigger entity which is in action than what you have done.
Yes.
And gradually getting that view, I think, reinforces the belief and the trust and the faith, and then you keep going. That's my personal experience.
All right. Here's the way Swami Prabhavananda put it. Swami Prabhavananda was my teacher. This is one of his aphorisms. If we can just be calm and look at the things of the world objectively, in other words, see them as the objects for which they are. If we can simply be calm and look at the things of the world objectively and think of ourselves as the Atman, everything will pass by and be all right. Now, that is a seemingly simple statement. The more you think about it, the more profound it becomes. We
absolutely, brother.
But we can only come to think of ourselves as the Atman by experiencing ourselves as the Atman, which is why Sri Krishna says in virtually every chapter of the Gita that, and Sri Ramakrishna says it as well, and Jesus says it as well, you must turn inward. You must practice what we call meditation, contemplation, concentration. Within the Christian context, it's various and very special kinds of prayer, which is also contemplation and concentration and even repetition of mantras. Until we see ourselves as that witness self. When we see ourselves as that witness self and truly believe ourselves to be that witness self, and then we can release attachment to our actions, their fruits, and our attachment to this body. Because we see the body is simply being this, what Sri Krishna defined in that quote that was read, as the five partakers of and causers of the actions that are taking place as we speak, this very moment. Which is as was said earlier, it is miraculous. It is a great mystery. Each one of us who speaks in turn, and the others listen, and the certain feelings, thoughts, and other things arise in us as a result. But then that passes away. What are we left with at the end of this? The sense that something auspicious has happened. Otherwise, why would we stay? Why would we participate if we didn't feel like something good was happening? Something something is lost in the way of a quality of ignorance, and something is gained in the sense of a self-confidence and belief that I am that, as the great saying in the Upanishads says. I am that. I am that witness self, which is absolutely, as Krishna says in chapter 2 of the Gita, it is absolutely invulnerable. It has absolutely nothing to fear, and it has absolutely nothing to want, because it has everything. It is eternally, infinitely, changelessly existing, and as such, it has nothing, though it expresses much. It has nothing. It wants nothing. It does nothing. And in the sense of our left mind kind of knowledge, it knows nothing. It is knowledge itself. It is existence itself. It is happiness or bliss or joy itself.
Brother, an experience I had yesterday. Yesterday or day before yesterday, I took a hike up the Kennesaw Mountain, and after I reached the top of the mountain, you get this beautiful view of Kennesaw and pretty much some of the Cobb County, and you see all these houses. They're tiny, cars you can barely see from up there, and I had this feeling that this means we are so tiny. That's the objective view. Means that is exactly the view Sri Krishna has mentioned in the Gita. Means look at it from a bird's eye view kind of thing of your own life and everything. And we are just so tiny compared to this huge divine and mom who's created all this. So it was kind of a beautiful experience.
I'm sure it was very fulfilling and very uplifting. Yes, that is one of the reasons to make the effort to get to such a place where you do have these kinds of experiences.
I'd like to say something, Brother Zafar.
Yes, sir.
It seems pretty obvious to me that the physical body is a part of this physical world or this physical universe. It has always been a part of it. It is a part of it now, and it will always be a part of it. And the basic nature of all physical things is change.
Mm-hmm.
And when this physical body is put together, accumulated by a human soul and inhabited by a human soul, it kind of modifies its basic characteristics, because we now add an intelligence to it where we can feed it with food, and we can have it to develop in a way that we choose to have it develop. And with death, that is withdrawn. So then the body, as a physical thing, goes back to its original characteristics of change, and it goes back to the earth. So the body part of it is pretty obvious and pretty simple to understand. It's science. Now, when you come to the soul that's inhabiting it, is what you were talking about today, is another issue. And we don't know very much about that soul. And like you said, I agree 100%. We inhabit this body because we can, or because we choose to.
Well, that is the volition part. Yes, there seems to be a volitional aspect to it. But why do we have that volition? Why do we make that choice? Because we can. That's what we're told. And this is why I said in the beginning, it's presumptuous to tell anybody else they should not be born, or there should not be human beings being born. Who are they to say what other people's choices should be? It's just more of that authoritarianism that people love to participate in.
Well, from what I've said, I think it becomes obvious to everybody, if it wasn't already, that we are not a body.
Yes.
I mean, you can see that, and it's understandable.
Well, it is to people who pursue this way of being and thinking, Robert. Most people completely thoughtlessly identify themselves entirely with their body. And so rather than seek their solace and their understanding of life in spiritual pursuits, they self-medicate instead. They duck the issue, which is why it's said in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, that until you stop that, you're not going to make any progress whatsoever. You're just going to get worse, and ultimately you will die. That's what's said in Alcoholics Anonymous. If you continue to self-medicate, and of course, there are many ways of self-medicating. There's now a 12-step program for virtually everyone, and maybe every one of those ways of self-medicating. But in fact, most people do not, most human beings do not seek their solace, and they do not take refuge in the spirit. And as a result, they're very miserable.
But from the next level up from that, if once you recognize and realize that you're not a body, the next stage is to look at the mind and to recognize and realize that you're not a mind.
Exactly.
And if you observe the mind, you will observe that the mind has likes and dislikes. And many times those likes and dislikes are not the same as yours. And the only way you can recognize that is through self-observation.
Yes.
If you do it and you recognize it and you see what they are, then you need to actually recognize what the likes are, and then you need to recognize what the dislikes are.
Yes.
And that is the tool that you can use to start to control the mind.
Yes.
And until you do control the mind, all of the stuff that you're talking about here is not going to make any sense to anybody, to the people who have not mastered that mind, because that's stage one. If you don't master the mind, you're still a beginner.
Well, precisely, Robert. And that is why, as I said, Sri Krishna tells us,
Yes.
you called it introspection. You must practice some sort of interior work and discover that there is a whole other realm that, as long as you're just outward directed, you never know exists. And it's only then that you begin to develop the volition to master the mind. You develop the intention to master the mind, simply because you don't want to be mastered by the mind. You sense there's something that does not want to be mastered by the mind.
It's just like anything else in life. If you start, you got to start with the basics, the elementary, the ABCs. And if once you can get the ABCs, then you can move on to the next level. But trying to move to the next level without knowing your ABCs is frustrating and confusing. Tom
Carr told me about teaching English to immigrant children. And just what you were talking about, Robert, he told me a funny little story that he was with this immigrant child, and they were going through this little book that showed animals and their names. And it started with cat. The little boy could pronounce cat just fine. There was a picture of a cat. He said cat. Then he turned the page. The next one was cow, and he could say cow. There was a picture of a cow. He looked at the cow. Then they turned the page. There was dog. He could say dog. Some other pages of the book were turned until he got to the page where there was a picture of a hippopotamus and the word hippopotamus. And the little boy just laughed. He just laughed merrily at this preposterous word that he couldn't begin to pronounce. So as you say, we're not going to learn how to pronounce hippopotamus right away. We're going to learn how to pronounce all the cat, cow, dog, and so on. Then, and this is what we're well along in this discussion here. We're discussing some very sophisticated ideas. Chapter 18 of the Gita is Krishna's summation. And that's why I took this definition of what it is that's doing and acting, what it is that's the partaker of the action, and the causer of the action, the causers of the action. That's why I chose that from chapter 18, because it's where Krishna's summing it up. And he says, that which is witnessing all this, this is where he says, it has nothing, it wants nothing, it has nothing, it does nothing. So we are left with the desire to either live on, certainly I'll raise my hand, I have no desire to depart this life immediately. I am enjoying what is going on. But I enjoy it more and more as the witness, not as the participant per se. Although last night I went to a music concert and I very, very much was entranced by the beauty and the grace of these singer-songwriters and musicians that were performing such wonderful music. And I also enjoyed one of the best brownies I've ever had in my life. So there's, but I also was watching myself, so to speak, enjoy this and enjoying the enjoyment even more. And this is why when I got that yogi tea tag this morning that said, without gratitude, there is no prosperity. I was so grateful. I was so grateful last night for everything that was happening, as I am grateful in these moments right now for everything that's happening. So there's real wealth. There's real prosperity. And that's why I'm not ready to sign off and head for home.
Nor am I, Brother Shankara. I exactly of the same opinion and attitude that this life is as wonderful and beautiful, even when sometimes your body does not cooperate.
Oh, yes. And as we get older, that's inevitable.
Yes. Still, if you develop this kind of sit back and look at what you are doing and what others are doing in a very non-judgmental and alipta, what we call detached way, then you enjoy much more and in a very, very profound way that you exactly know when to participate, when not to participate, and just to withdraw and look at it.
Yes, you become more and more selective about what's presented.
Yes, and you prefer your joys to be sattvic, pure, of the earth. I would not say superior.
Yes.
Of a purity, of a certain quality, like music. I enjoy good play, drama, whatever it is your thing. But that apart from that, I'm coming back to the original question of reincarnation. Now there are two groups, or maybe more than two groups, of those who believe in reincarnation, those who don't. But in my experience, most of the world religions, they believe in reincarnation. Now, suppose you do. I'm going to the next level. Who determines and how it is determined where you'll be born, as what you'll be born, in which family you'll be born, whether you'll be born in a rich, well-to-do family or a poor family. And according to original Indian caste system, which caste you'll be born, as a Brahmin or this or that. All these I'm trying to reason. All birth, where you'll be born, to whom you'll be born, etc., will be perhaps determined by your previous karma. So that's where I'm trying to fit in the karma theory, that what you sow, so you reap. Am I correct?
But the question, Uma, has to come down to who do you mean by you? As you sow, so shall you reap. What was pointed out to me in no uncertain terms by Divine Mother is that there is no you in this body. It is not personal. All the karma is associated with the body. The you is not the body. It is absolutely not the body. So the body sows and it reaps. And so if we go on and take another one, it will reap what was sown and this is what's called the prarabdha karma, the karma that causes this body to arise. But it is.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yeah, but there's no, in that sense, you, the you of you, the volitional being. Notice that in the 5 partakers that Sri Krishna spoke of in chapter 18, there is no volitional being.
Yeah.
The volitional being is entirely separate from, distinct from, and not a partaker in all of these activities of the body.
Yes.
It's a witness to all this.
But the body is born again. So,
And the witness may be born along with it, must be born along with it, according to its own volition. It may or may not take another birth. So if it does, it takes a birth knowing that it is taking birth in a body that has a certain kind of karma. This is what we're told.
thank you.
Brother, may I add something?
Yes.
Just in my own life, the other day, I remember you asked me, was I born into an auspicious birth or childhood? And on paper, I'm born to the last family just about you'd want to be born to, and not, in circumstances that people would say is terrible. Had a terrible childhood, terrible teenage years, but those were the most auspicious circumstances I could have been born into. That was the most auspicious karma possible for me to have.
Precisely, Glenn. Precisely. Yes. Very, very well said.
They say this thing, there's no hopes of a better past are futile. If you would have asked me what my karma was 15 years ago, I would have told you it was terrible. Yeah. But today, it's the most auspicious karma I could have possibly had. What has changed? All the events took place just the same. It's the judgment of the karma.
Yes. There's a wonder in the way we're always free to change the world by changing how we see. These are lines from a song, Love's Shining Peace, by Cindy Craven. They are very wise words. What you just described, nothing of your past could possibly change. How you saw it changed 180 degrees. The same thing happened here. When I was 25, I had a very different idea of who I was and the terrible past that I had come from and through.
Can we say that you had to, because we know nothing, we are pretty much dumb compared to, because pretty much Divine Mother is in control of everything, brother. So can we say we had to go through all of that? That was her plan, and that's why we are right now here actually talking and having a beautiful session and conversation.
I don't know that I understand the word plan. Mother doesn't seem to have plans. Mother doesn't.
Whatever she wants to do.
She just does what she does. Sri Ramakrishna describes it as her divine sport, her divine Leela, and that she is capricious. So I'm not sure that she has a plan for us. No. It's not a question of there being a predetermined plan, though there is predetermined karma. As Holy Mother says, there is someone called destiny who keeps a book of record. And so that the karma, as Uma was pointing out, is inevitable, except that it can be changed by changing how we behave, which is based on how we think, which is based on how we see the world. There's a wonder in the way we're always free to change the world by changing how we see. How do we change how we see? We change it by changing the view we're looking at. If we look only at the outside world through those 5 partakers that Sri Krishna listed and were talked about in the beginning, nothing is going to change other than the circumstances will change and we'll be buffeted about. The moment we turn within, then we're able to change how we see. Why? Because we discover something beyond these 5 partakers in the action, in the field of action. The field of action is something of the body. The witness is the knower of the field of action. Knower in the sense of not knowing like intellectual knowing, simply witnessing it and expressing its divine attributes like a flower expresses its fragrance.
Brother Shankara?
Yes, dear.
I want to add to all of your wisdom that you shared. You said in the middle of our conversation, if I want to be released from the drama, what do we need to do? So that the only way is journey to inwards, knowing ourselves. Then, my opinion, we can be released from the drama around us in this world. And I don't think there is any other secret to it, but that's not easy. No. Going inward and then finding getting our self-realization. And like Robert said, that is the first step. Exactly. That first step is pretty hard step, but that's the only way we can be released and detach and then take the witness stand, observe everything, calmness to opposition. Through the meditation, it happens.
Yes.
With personal experience. Some of it, I may not be perfect in it, but mostly that journey really helps a lot. That journey, knowing self, and it releases from all the other commotions around us.
Yes. And every one of the great teachers says, turn within.
And there is a great...
Each one of the 4 yogas that are taught through this place are a way of turning within.
Yes. I have one nice quote from The Way of a Pilgrim that may answer many doubts. It says, the pilgrim says to one of the travelers, the grace of God distributes his gift in wisdom to every man severally according to his strength. That is according to Holy Scriptures. I will read that one more time if you wish.
Yes, please.
The grace of God distributes his gift in wisdom to every man severally according to his strength. according to her holy scriptures. I thought that was very profound.
And what has the pilgrim done? The pilgrim has turned within.
Yes.
He has sought the kingdom of God.
Exactly. Exactly.
And so all wisdom
Yes.
and all righteousness has been conferred on him.
A wonderful
Just-
book. Wonderful
just-
book, Brother Shankara.
Yes, it is.
If anybody wants to have the inner travel and faith and prayer, power of prayer, and that is the book, the way of a pilgrim, and the pilgrim continues his journey. It's
Yes.
just a small read. It's a great book to our congregational
And what
knowledge.
does he do? What does he do? He learns to
Yes.
repeat in his heart the mantra.
Pray without ceasing. That's what the whole thing is done by pray without ceasing.
He learns how to say in his heart and repeat in his heart until it is a complete, it is what exists more than anything else is, Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me. That's all.
He prayed without ceasing. He prayed without ceasing. He absorbed the knowledge from every person he encountered. And this is a great book for our group too. Actually, Swami Sarvadevananda recommended this for initiation. He added 4 books, 3 or 4. This is one of the books. I'm
Yes.
so glad
Well,
he did that.
It is one of the great,
Great
one of the
books.
great spiritual texts
Classic,
written in the
Brother
last couple of 100 years. So anything else from me? Thank you as always, Jaime.
Thank you.
The way of a pilgrim, and the pilgrim continues his way.
Brother, I have a doubt. You mentioned about the quote from Swami Prabhavananda, which mentioned that, like, consider yourself as the witness and others as the object for which they are intended for. So how do we? I didn't really get that. Can you explain more on that? Like, how do we need to?
No, what the Swami said was, if we're calm and look at the things of the world objectively and think of ourselves as the Atman, everything will pass by and be all right. We're going to live out our prarabdha karma. This is what we understand. We're going to live the life that was ordained not by some master plan by mother or anyone else, but by the karma generated by this momentum in past lives, we're told. So then we're going to live that out. That's what the Swami means by everything will pass by. The rest of your life will pass by and be all right. If you can look at the things of the world objectively and think of yourselves as that witness being. I am not the doer. I am the witness. The doer is done by the doing being. The doing being arises and passes away. I may take a new one, or I may not. One of these doing beings. So that's how I understand what the Swami said. We don't look at things as, we don't look down on things as objects. We simply see them as objectively. This is a world of things, of objects. And for those people who are suffering, we have compassion. For those people who are exulting, we share their joy. For those people who are singing, we, in our hearts, sing along. For those people who are weeping, in our hearts, we weep with them.
Okay. So it means that we need to reinforce the idea that we are the Atman. Is that the
Absolutely, absolutely. How do we reinforce the idea that we are the Atman? Not by insisting on it intellectually. That simply will not do. We have to learn the truth of that by being introspective, as Robert Ayers pointed out. Introspection. Introspection is concentration and meditation. Contemplation, prayer, concentration, and meditation. That's what will get us to this discovery of the witness self. We discover it within. We uncover its presence by taking away that which covered it. All of those outward directed thoughts, feelings, and as Robert also said, we ultimately learn, well, if I'm going to continue in this and be at all satisfied with it, I have to learn to master the mind. I have to learn to control the mind. So we
Can
do.
I say, brother, can I say, like, pretty much whatever you do, whatever things that you have in the material world, just think of it as nothing is mine. Everything is yours.
Yes, precisely.
And then you start detaching. Automatically you start detaching.
What can be yours when
Nothing.
the thing that has any idea of ownership is going to pass away?
That's it. Even the body, everything. Children, everything.
I mean, that folk saying you can't take it with you.
Nope.
You know? And that ridiculous saying, he who dies with the most toys wins. Wins what?
Exactly.
Wins another lifetime, if that's what you want. And by the way, at this point in this being's doing, I'm no longer concerned about whether I'm reborn or not. If I am reborn to serve, fine. Otherwise, I just prefer, but it's just a preference, to take the road of the saints and not take another body. It's like the Dalai Lama said. The Dalai Lama said, well, I'll decide when I'm 90 whether I'm coming back or not. If I'm needed, I'll come back. But if I come back this next time, I'm coming back as a woman, which I thought was very powerful indeed. His assertion that the leadership will be provided by women as this goes on. And there are many, many indications, including Swami Vivekananda's assertion that it would be women who led from as this unfoldment goes on.
Well, we can't discount the divine feminine. You know? I mean,
Well,
that's my divine mother right there.
Yes. Well, what does it say in the Chandi? Mother, you are the all-pervading Devi. You are the all-pervading goddess who constantly presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. The elements are the 5 elements that Uma was pointing out before. So she's the governess. She's the one who's doing all this doing. She's the one who produces this body and but her realm is time, space, and causation. She is Shakti. She is Maya. We are not of the realm of time, space, and causation. This is not our home. We're visitors.
She created the light bulbs which we are, and the energy that goes through it.
Yes, exactly. And we're visitors here. We are the divine being having a human experience, not a human being having a divine experience. Anything else from anyone?
Brother Shankar?
Yes, Bhagarat, I was wondering if you were there.
I'm listening very carefully and I'm learning a lot from a variety of viewpoints. But just wanted to add one more.
Yes.
That in our thoughts, we assume that in reincarnation, we are going to be human being again. Presumption. Not only that, but spiritually unsound presumption. Because what we are implying that the human category is the best, and anything less than that is less. But on the other hand, if you read in between the lines of Hindu scriptures, they have seen the same divine soul in a snake, in a tiger, in a crocodile, in an elephant, in a bird. This is the reason why in our Upanishad, the typical story to illustrate all the complex thoughts that we had was about the two birds. One of them is watching, the second one is acting. The Paramatma and Jivatma. And at that particular point, Jivatma needs to understand from what I gather from today's discussion, that pain is inevitable, but suffering is voluntary. And therefore, we should not be afraid. We should not be afraid of the pain. If we have to be reborn again, like Shankaracharya says, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani, Jathare Shayanam. He says, what is this? That is because we are moving in a horizontal direction. There are no vertical spikes in it. Then the vertical spikes come in it, let the pain come. If I'm reborn again, and if it is suffering, I'm ready for it. But I want to make my life worthwhile to do something before being disappeared again.
Yes. Well, it's interesting that what you say about read between the lines. Vivekananda made the remark, where shall we go to find God if not in our own hearts and in every living being? So if God is in our own hearts and is also in every living being, as you point out, we may not indeed be reborn as a human being. Although Vivekananda, in his last talk that is published in the book Jnana Yoga, the last talk being the real and the apparent man, says that if you are pursuing a spiritual path, it's most likely that if you are to be reborn, you will be reborn as a human being. And Sri Krishna says the same thing in the Gita. He tells Arjuna, when Arjuna asks him a question about being reborn, whether everything will be lost if he doesn't attain the goal in this lifetime. Sri Krishna says, no, my child, that's not how it works. And he talks about being reborn in an auspicious family, human family. He even enumerates their characteristics, prosperous and pious. And so the likelihood from the great teachers that we listen to here is that we will be reborn as a human being. But it's not guaranteed by any manner of means, nor is it, I suppose, the most to be desired. What do I know? Thank you, Bhagarat, as always, for these.
Human being we consider to be a better form of reincarnation, not because we are superior, but we have more capacity to help others and propagate the cause of God.
Well, furthermore, we have a capacity for self-reflection.
Yes.
This is the apparent difference
Yes.
between us.
Yes.
We can see the divine reflected in the mirror of our being.
So if Gaurav, just by standing on the peak of the Kennesaw mountain, which is not the highest mountain in the world, he could see so many things and put them in perspective. At that time, we have our choice. We may lose our time in taking pictures, not even, or just absorb the magnanimity like Yashoda did in the mouth of Krishna, baby Krishna.
Yes.
That's the way that Krishna showed to Arjuna, or in the famous novel by Herman Hesse, a simple boatman, Vasudev, he saw the same thing.
Yes.
Abundance of everything around, and understand I am just a small little nothing in it.
All right. Thank you, Bhagarat, as always, and to all of you for being here, for sharing yourselves. Those of you who speak and those of you who don't, as you've heard it said many times, whether you say
Brother,
anything or not, you're sharing yourself.
just on a funny note, like Kennesaw Mountain is tiny. It's like a hill. So if I were in Mount Everest, I wouldn't see anything. Means it's just snow covered.
Yes, well,
Oh.
there are many places in between. So
Find your level, find your height.
yes, you can go to Brasstown Bald and
Yes,
see a lot of
definitely.
things from there. All
Yeah,
right.
it's beautiful.
Chattahoochee Garden. Yeah.
Swami Nishinsadanji, he went to the North Pole, and what he saw, nobody else can see. Because he had eyes to see that.
All right, dears. This has been splendid. This has been wonderful. It is one of the sweetest things we can do, and we can do it so splendidly together. Study the art of spirituality together. As Swami Yogeshananda used to say, consciousness is primary and is not plural, and yet the joy of our seeming plurality enables us to do this. So we are both the partakers, the causers, and the witness, all in this one package. But we are not to identify with the partaker and the causer. That's Mother. We are the witness, and that is what will persist. That's what I hope we can take away from this. And the more we can identify with the witness self, the knower, rather than the known, the more stable and blissful we will be. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, 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 and eternal blessed beneficence be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga Durga Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we know we are always in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. Hari Om Tat Sat. Until Tuesday, for those of you who join us for the Gospel class, or Wednesday for the Gita class, or next Saturday, for the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras class. Next weekend, next Sunday, we'll have an open forum on Karma Yoga, which will start with a guided meditation again, and then the guided meditation will direct us toward the witness self, and then we'll talk about what Krishna says about Karma Yoga. Until then, away we go.